everyone. My name is Daniel. Today I'm going to be putting my predictions out there for what I think is going to happen for every single team in the 2026 season in the MLB. I'm going to split this up into two different videos, one for the NL, one for the AL, because I tend to yap a lot and I have a lot that I want to say about every single team. If anyone is interested in me going really in depth on a certain team, just say so, and I will make a video going in depth on that certain team and what I think about some of the players and some of the moves that they made in the off season. But really, this is just going to be me yapping about baseball for a while. So I hope you guys are strapped in for that, because I might not make a lot of sense, but I just want to put my thoughts out there. Bear in mind, I do have biases. I have a favorite team, and I'll be going over that within this video. This video is on the NL. So I will be going over which team I'm a fan of. You might not like it, but that's okay. And bear in mind, also, I'm a new baseball fan, all things considered. I really started following baseball in the 2023 season. Not to say that I don't think I know a little bit about baseball, but I'm definitely lacking in knowledge still. And so feel free to educate me on anything that you might think, and feel free to disagree with my opinions too. All this is subjective. None of this is fact. These are all preseason predictions. Baseball is a sport of complete randomness. You never really can predict anything for sure. And so this is just me trying to say what I think is going to happen for every single team. But what I'm going to be going in depth on is I'm going to be talking about the player, the team, how they performed last season, and how that might affect them this season. If I think they'll be a playoff team, and where I think they'll be in the division, and their offseason moves. I don't know if I said that or not. But as you can see here, the first team I'm going to be starting with, and the first division I'll be starting with, is the NL East and the Atlanta Braves. So the Atlanta Braves are a really weird team going into the 2026 season. I think last year a lot of people thought that they were going to win the NL East. And I don't necessarily disagree with that thought, especially going into the season. But the unfortunate part is, and I'm sorry, Braves fans, but there's a lot of question marks with this roster right now, specifically with health. I think it has been a noticeable trend in the past 2 years that this team cannot stay healthy to save their life. And that reflects really heavily in their record. I mean, if you go back even 2 seasons from now, 3 seasons from now, 104 wins in the 2023 season. And then you go down to 89 wins, and you're lost in the wild card. And then you go down even more to 76 wins and fourth in the NL East, which is an unfortunate trend for them. And a lot of that has to do with injuries and their players being injury prone, which is not necessarily the players' fault, because I need to say this now. This team has so much talent on them. This team is probably one of the most talented teams in the NL. However, injuries and underperformance is killing this roster and their chances at making this core more than what it should be. But that's not a discredit to the players individually. Players like Matt Olson, who had probably his second best year as an Atlanta Brave last year. Gold Glove. I believe he was the Silver Slugger winner. I could be corrected on that, though. He had a great season last year. Chris Sale was the reigning Cy Young going into last year, and unfortunately he got hurt diving for a ball to complete a shutout, and was out about, I think, 2.5, 3 months, which was really unfortunate for him. His age it's getting scary, and regression could come at any moment, and so that's not a good sign. Drake Baldwin was the rookie of the year last year. He'll be really good again this year. Can't go wrong with that. Ronald Acuna Jr. will be a stud this year. In my opinion, he'll probably be top 5 in the MVP voting for the NL. He's going to be a stud. Sean Murphy, I think at this point is whatever. I think you'd rather have Drake Baldwin, and honestly, Sean Murphy could probably get moved for maybe some pitching depth or a different piece in the lineup. Michael Harris just has not lived up to his expectations as a player yet. Still good sometimes, but man, he's just been underwhelming. Schwellenbach had a great few games last season. He had a great year until he got injured, which really is unfortunate, but he might be a stud. Ozzy just has not been the same. Marcelo Ozuna is no longer a Brave. Grant Holmes, honestly, to me, is kind of whatever. Raciel Iglesias is cool. This team just was not great last year, and their offseason moves, to me, don't really indicate anything else really happening. Uh, if you look at projected WAR for the next season, and I hate being a stat person, but I think it really is important to note. Hao Sung Kim, they gave a 1-year contract for a ton of money, and he, I believe, slipped and broke his hand and needed surgery. So that's not a great start. Mike Yastrzemski is a good signing. He'll be a good player for them. Jonah Heim is kind of whatever. Jorge Mateo is kind of whatever to me. Jared Kelnick is a free agent, so that doesn't really matter. And you signed Robert Suarez, which is cool. And you re-signed Raciel Iglesias, which is cool. I'm just of the position that is not enough talent to supplement a team that has been injured and injured and injured over and over and over again. And I don't think it's going to be enough to get over the hump for them this season. I'd be surprised if they made the playoffs. And honestly, I'd be surprised if they finished maybe even third in the division. Obviously, injuries is a hard thing to forecast. And so I also, at the same time, would not be surprised if they're a top 2 team in the division. I just think at this point, a lot of these players are aging. Well, not a lot, but some of your core guys are aging out or have left the team. And some of them are really injury prone and cannot finish a season or haven't for a few years now. So I think all things considered, Atlanta will maybe at most finish third in the division, maybe around 500, maybe even fourth. They won't be the last team in the division, though. So if that's anything good to indicate from this, then there you go. But watch out for Ronald Acuna. He'll be great, and so will Matt Olson. The next team I'm going to talk about here is the Miami Marlins. The Miami Marlins are in such a weird spot as a franchise. Last year was supposed to be a huge tanking or rebuilding year. Unfortunately, we're going to say additions. Unfortunately, well, I guess actually rather fortunately for them, it was not a rebuilding year. That 2023 playoff core was never going to last, and I think that's the unfortunate reality of it. I'm a big fan of players like Jazz Chisholm. I think Luis Rise is whatever, but I thought it was a really fun team that Miami had. It sucks that they just were never going to be repeatable in any way, and blowing it up when they did was the right call, and you got back great pieces, and I think this 2025 team is the epitome of that. And I think 2026 will be an even better year for them as a whole. Looking at guys like Kyle Stowers. Kyle Stowers, I think, will be an all-star. I don't know if he was last year or not. He was. I think he'll be an all-star again this season pretty handedly. He's a great player. Kyle Stowers is a great player. I think he will be an all-star again this season. Huge home run threat from the left side. Otto Lopez is a great second baseman or shortstop, whatever you need him to be. He'll be that for you. He's a great player. I love Otto Lopez. Xavier Edwards plays okay defense. Obviously, not a slugging guy, but he can get on base for sure. Well, not even that. He can just get base hits. He's another Luis Arias for you. But he plays more valuable defense. And you know what? I guess that's something for you to take away from this. He also did hit for a cycle a little bit ago, which is an interesting thing for him. Edward Cabrera, who is no longer on the team, and I'll talk about that in a second. Ronnie Henriquez, great player. Anthony Bender's great. Jacob Marcy had a great little bit. But I think the main thing that could really turn this team around is if Yuri Perez and Sandy Alcantara are healthy. If that is the case, I believe this team could maybe even place third in the NL East again. And I think they could even make a playoff spot in the wild card. It is really dependent on what they do with this pitching staff. Miami, for the longest time, was known as a pitching team. Their offense was never their mainstay, but their pitching was elite. That has not been the case due to injuries, and Sandy Alcantara was not having a good season last year. I'm honestly surprised he's not on a different team right now. I thought he was going to get traded at the deadline. Yuri Perez is cool. But if both are healthy, it will be a formidable rotation to try and go against. And you have a lot of pieces around the edges that I like. I think the Christopher Morel piece as a bench bat or maybe a platoon bat is a great pickup for them. Christopher Morel had not lived up to his expectations in Tampa, especially last year. Last year was pretty brutal for him. And so I like this as kind of a low-risk, high-reward type pickup. Because if Christopher Morel sucks, you can just DFA him or you can cut him or you can trade him somewhere else. You didn't give him a lot of money. And so it's not the end of the world if this guy is not good. Pete Fairbanks really strengthens that bottom of the bullpen. He will probably be their closer going into the season. And I love that pickup for them. Pete Fairbanks is going to be a great pickup. And then also, you got some players back from the trade of Edward Cabrera. Most importantly, you got Owen Casey. And I think Owen Casey is easily probably going to be one of the most important pieces on this team going into next season. You really got to see how this guy's going to play if he does end up getting the call-up, which I don't know if he'll get the call-up per se. But if you look here, Owen Casey's huge. Just really good depth pieces all around here. Owen Casey's the main guy you're looking out for, though. And if he does get the call-up, you really got to hope that he's going to be great. But anyways, with this Miami team, don't be shocked if they end up possibly making the wild card. I think they will be the third best team in this division. I think they'll take a huge step forward. I can't wait to look dumb about this take in about 3 weeks. Or like 3 weeks into the season when they're inevitably 15 games under 500. But that's where I stand. I think this roster is going to be good. I think they made sizable improvements. And I'm interested to see how this team plays out. All right, the next team that we have here is the Washington Nationals. The Washington Nationals are going to be a bad baseball team. They will be worse than last year by a long shot, in my opinion. I don't think they'll be very good at all. I think C.J. Abrams will probably not be a National by the end or even by the deadline, let alone end of the season. I think this team is just depleted of good baseball players. And it's that simple. And I know the whole point is that you're taking swings on prospects. But the issue is those prospects haven't panned out for you. Nothing about this team screams to me that they're going to be any good going into next season. And signing Miles Michaelis is not going to help you be a better baseball team in the slightest. Let alone the fact that you decided you were going to trade Mackenzie Gore. And I don't really know a ton about these prospects that they got back, but as far as I'm aware, none of them are necessarily headlining type players. They just seem like, to me, a bunch of depth pieces that you're hoping develop into something more interesting. But in all honesty, that Juan Soto trade package is looking worse and worse by the year, really. Trading Mackenzie Gore is a huge blow to the value of that trade. And as much as I love James Wood as a player, and C.J. Abrams is really good, you can never replicate Juan Soto, even if the situation there was never going to be repairable. One thing I do like about what the Nationals did this offseason, though, is I love that they traded Jose Ferrer for Harry Ford. I think Harry Ford is going to be good. I think it's time to move on from Kybert Ruiz. I think he's been meh long enough for you. I think it's time to cut your ties, cut your losses, and get it over with because he's not going to be your catcher for the future. I also like Dylan Cruz as a player. I think he might be interesting. Maybe Robert Hassel will be something to look out for, but really none of the rest of this team really blows me away in any significant way. This team will be bad, and I think they know that. I think their fans know that, and I apologize for that. But the reality is this Washington Nationals team next season will be the bottom of the division. They will not make the playoffs at all. I would be surprised if they eclipsed anything over or under 99 losses. 100 losses is like my benchmark for them. I don't think they'll be much better than that. So, yeah, that's what I think about the Washington Nationals. The next team I'm going to talk about here is my home team, the Philadelphia Phillies. This team, I think everyone knows, is in a bit of a weird spot at this point in their team trajectory. The Philadelphia Phillies are a great baseball team, and I don't think you can really take that away from them. However, big however, they've been so stagnant over the last few years that I find it hard to think that this team will make it beyond the second round of the playoffs if they do make it. This team has not shown any urgency at all, especially with the age of this core at this point. And I just don't think any of the moves that they have made move the needle enough. And unfortunately, the Bo Bichette signing with the Mets thing was a huge punch to the balls for this team and this roster. And they did not know what to do other than to pivot back to JT Realmuto and continue to be stagnant, which I don't think was necessarily the right move. But this team is just not good enough yet to get over the hump that they're in. Adolis Garcia, I think, will be an okay Philly. I don't think he'll be great, though. I don't think he'll be anything near what you need him to be, especially at this point in his career. Dylan Moore is a cool bench bat, but that doesn't blow me away. Genesis Cabrera is a cool relief guy, and I think Brian De La Cruz might be interesting too. But that's kind of all you got. This team is just not much better than where they were last year. Cutting Nick Castellanos, which happened today as I'm recording, is good. But the fact that you could not get anything for him says a lot about that contract and a lot about where he is as a player. Trading Matt Strom is a little bit of a blow. That doesn't really help you much. Just the team's in a weird spot, both financially and in terms of a roster. I think they'll probably place second in this division. I would be surprised if they made it past the second round of the playoffs again. And frankly, this core could be over before you know it. This could be the real last season of this core as we know it. And hopefully that means they'll shake it up in a good way. But more likely than not, they will be shedding money. And it will be a tragedy. So, from a subjective or an objective point of view here, the Philadelphia Phillies, they'll be a good playoff baseball team. But they will not make it far. They just have not gotten over the hump. And I haven't even talked about losing Ranger Suarez. That's a huge blow to them too. Their pitching staff did not get better. This team is just in limbo right now, and there's not really much else you can really say about it. Your year was 2023. That was supposed to be the season that you won, and you blew it to an Arizona team that has been middling as well. So that's where I'm at with the Philadelphia Phillies. I think they'll play second. I think they'll make the playoffs, but they won't get very far. The next team to talk about is the New York Mets. The New York Mets had a really up and down offseason. As you can see here, they lost players, and a lot of them. Ryan Helsley, Cedric Mullins, Griffin Canning, Tyler Rogers, Greg Soto, Jesse Winker, and most importantly, You lost Pete Alonso, and you lost Edwin Diaz. Those are huge, huge blows to this team. But you made up for it tenfold by signing Bo Bichette. Who else am I forgetting? You traded for Freddie Peralta. You revitalized this core in a lot of different ways. You traded Brandon Nimmo, which is a big change up. You're going to let Nolan McLean shine. This team is just in a better spot than the Phillies, objectively. Their record last year will not be their record next year. They will be much, much better than that. Objectively, their roster is going to be much, much better. Picking up Bo Bichette from the Phillies, swiping him last second was a huge gut punch to the Phillies, and I'm sure if there's any Mets fans watching, you love to hear that. But I think this team will probably be the 1 seed. Well, not the 1 seed. Let me not get too far ahead of myself. I think they'll be the best team in the NL East by far. I think they'll get first in the division at minimum. They'll probably be the 2nd seed and get a playoff bye. To see if this Mets team has really changed or not is going to be interesting. Bo Bichette might not be here for long as he has an opt-out at the end of the season. So there's absolutely no guarantee that he will return to this roster if he has a good year. So be on the lookout for that. This Mets team is a lot different looking than it is last year. But I think all in all, it's a good Mets team. They're going to be chilling. Freddie Peralta's a stud. Semien move was a little weird, but the team's going to be great. Juan Soto, Lindor, not Pete Alonso, Bo Bichette. Great core. And I think they'll be first in the division and make the playoffs this year. Moving on to the Milwaukee Brewers. I think the Milwaukee Brewers are in a weird state as a team. I feel like we say this every single offseason, but I feel like this year especially, they're kind of hitting that point where they need to start to retool a little. Yelich isn't getting any younger. Their core just has not proven themselves to be able to get over the hump when they really need it. Although they got to the NLCS, I'm really not that blown away by their team. They got manhandled by the Dodgers. Gary Sanchez does not fill any holes for this team. And although you got a guy like Jet Williams back in a trade, it really doesn't change much for you. And trading Caleb Durbin recently was an interesting move. Getting Kyle Harrison back, maybe you're hoping you can fix them. And Hal Zerpa's cool, but trading Isaac Collins didn't really make a lot of sense to me. This team's just in a weird spot. I don't think the Brewers will be better than 2 other teams in the division. I think they'll end up placing 3rd. They'll probably be over 500 because it is the Milwaukee Brewers. And I do love players like William Contreras. I love Yelich. Sal Frelick's really good. I like Abner Uribe. I like Jackson Chourio. I like Bryce Terang. I just don't think this roster is going to be good enough to really compete in a meaningful way in the NL Central next season. So that's my take. I think they'll be 3rd. I think they'll miss the playoffs. Next team up here, we have the Chicago Cubs. The Chicago Cubs had a really bizarre offseason to start. The Chicago Cubs were not rumored to be doing anything of significant importance, and that was a big blow to a roster that really needed to get supplemented, especially with Kyle Tucker not looking like he was going to re-sign with the team. You really needed someone else, and it looked really dire there for a little. They had some great relief pitcher pickups. Javi Milner is great. Phil Maton is great. Jacob Webb's pretty okay. Christian Bethancourt's a great pickup, but the big signing is Alex Bregman. You brought in Alex Bregman, who is going to be huge for this team. Alex Bregman is going to change the landscape of this team a lot. Do I think that he's better than Kyle Tucker? No, I don't think so. But it's still a win-now move. You still got better than you were at the beginning of the offseason. And trading for a guy like Edward Cabrera, too, gives you a lot of pitching depth that you really, really needed on this team. Justin Steele was not going to be able to carry the weight of this team alone. And so it's great that you picked up Edward Cabrera as well. Matthew Boyd. My only thing with this team is their pitching rotation is kind of old. Matthew Boyd is 35. Shota Imanaga, I believe, is 33. They're starting to get up there in age, and so I think that's why you went out there and got a guy like Edward Cabrera, scale down the age, get some team control in there, make sure you have a guy for a few years. But this Cubs team is going to be really good next year. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Nico Horner, one of the best second basemen in baseball. Pete Crow Armstrong, really up and down season. But I'm still relatively high on Pete Crow Armstrong. I think he'll be great next year. Michael Bush is a great first baseman. Dansby still a great defensive shortstop, not as much offensive anymore. You have Ian Happ, you know where you're getting out of him. Carson Kelly was great last year. Matt Shaw doesn't really have a place on this team anymore, so I'm really curious to see what they end up doing with him. If they end up shifting him around somewhere, maybe trying him in an outfield spot, but I don't know where you'd put him over guys like Seiya or PCA or Ian Happ. I don't know how that's going to work, so you might end up trading him for a pitcher. But regardless, 2026 Chicago Cubs are going to be great. They start their season in, I believe it is Japan? I think it's Japan against the Dodgers in about 3 weeks. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for them to be bringing back baseball. It's been a long off season, it feels like, and I'm excited to see what the Cubs can do. I think they'll be first in their division, and I think they'll make the playoffs. The next team we have here is the Cincinnati Reds. The Cincinnati Reds had a great season last year. They made the playoffs for the first time in, I believe it was 7, 8 years. It actually could have been longer. I really don't know. The Cincinnati Reds are going to be a good team next year. I think they'll see noticeable improvement. I think Hunter Green will be one of the best pitchers in the league. Elly De La Cruz will, I hope, finally find his stride again. You have a great pitching staff. Tony Stanlin is great. Nick Martinez, who is now Tampa Bay Ray. So that doesn't really matter. TJ Friedel's cool. Emilio Pagan's cool. Novelli Marte's cool. Tyler Stevenson's cool. The whole roster's cool. The main thing you're looking forward to is seeing what Eugenio Suarez can do in the Cincinnati Reds uniform again. That's a great pickup for them, even if it's just a one-year deal. Proves that maybe the front office is willing to spend a little money, supplement the core that they have, and maybe prove themselves as a playoff team. So I think this team is going to be really interesting, something to look out for. Pitching staff is going to be really good, probably one of the best in the NL. If I had to guess, they'll be the second best team in this division, and I don't think it'll be really all that close. I would have them in the playoffs, personally. So that's what I think about the Cincinnati Reds. The next team we have here is the St. Louis Cardinals. They're not going to be good. I'm just going to say it up front now. St. Louis has nothing to look forward to unless it's Mason Wynn or J.J. Weatherholt. The Cardinals have barely added anyone of importance other than Ryan Stanek. I mean, you got some cool players back for Brendan Donovan. I don't even know how to say his name. He might be cool. Ty Pete might be cool. And then you got some guys back for guys like Sonny Gray. But this team's just going to be so bad. I mean, you're down most of your best players. You're really letting the young guys shine. Your only two good offensive players will be Ivan Herrera and Mason Wynn. You have no good pitchers on your roster, really. But at least Miles Michaelis is gone. That's something to look forward to. But the Cardinals, they're not going to be good next year. I would be surprised if they make it over 100 or under 100 wins. What? I'd be I'd be surprised if they got under 100 losses. Is what I meant to say. I'd be surprised if they got under 100 losses. This team is just not good. But you got Hunter Dobbins, which is cool, I guess. I don't really know. Cardinals fans, you can tell me what you think of this team because I don't really know what to say about them. The Pittsburgh Pirates. What do I think about the Pittsburgh Pirates? Well, I think they will be a much better baseball team in the 2026 season. They made a lot of interesting moves in the offseason. Most importantly, you picked up Brandon Lau. You picked up a guy like Ryan O'Hearn. Recently, you signed Marcelo Ozuna. It shows a middling commitment to wanting to win. And so I think that's important to take note of. They're putting in an effort. Oh, you also get Gregory Soto, too. They're putting in an effort to try and be better because they know Paul Skeens will not come back if he does not sign an extension. And I think everybody knows that. He has interest in playing in a big market. This year is going to be a very prove-it year for Pittsburgh. If they can show good signs of improvement, that's great for their roster. Personally, and I'm just going to get this out the way, I don't think O'Neal Cruz is going to be very good anymore. I'm kind of off the O'Neal Cruz train, all things considered. I just don't think he'll live up the hype. I mean, you don't even see him here on the WAR list for last year, which I think says a lot. But Paul Skeens is elite. Dennis Santana is great. Jared Jones, when he comes back, he'll be great. Just a lot of good players on this team. A lot better than last season, I think. It sucks that you didn't re-sign Kutch, but, you know, I guess if you're the Pittsburgh Pirates, that's the cost of trying to be competitive. So I don't know where I'd be at if I was a Pittsburgh fan on that. I don't think I'd be thrilled by it, but, you know, there's always room for a guy like Kutch on a team. But Pittsburgh, I think they'll be 4th in the division this year. Slight improvement, way over the Cardinals. And they won't make the playoffs, but any kind of improvement is a good sign for Pittsburgh. So good for them.